for different reasons: to find a community, to seek your spiritual and personal truth, to question, to nurture your heart and soul, to be nurtured, to explore new ideas, to find comfort, and perhaps to find the answers to some of your bigger questions. We welcome you. We know you come from different places, different religions, different beliefs, and different backgrounds. We hope you will find a comfort, connection, challenge, and love here. We hope you will find ways to provide outreach to others in our congregation, in our local community, and in our world community. I call your attention to the announcements that are printed on the back of the order of service. Please read those for important information about fellowship life. Spoken announcements will be heard at the end of the hour. On behalf of the members of the fellowship, I extend a special welcome to all visitors who are joining us for the first time, and to those of you who still feel like visitors. If you have not already done so, please fill out our visitor book at the front near the greeters, or digitally by visiting auf.org/visitor. You may also contact our minister, Reverend Chris Rothbauer, at the minister@auuf.org with any questions or concerns you may have. As we prepare for our service this morning, please remember to turn your phone and other electronic devices to silent. Let us move into service, willing to be authentic with each other, honest within ourselves, and open to connection in all its forms.
Our opening words this morning are from Norman V. Naylor. Do not leave your cares at the door. Do not leave there your pain, your sorrow, or your joys. Bring them with you into this place of acceptance and forgiveness. Place them on the common altar of life and offer them to the possibility of your service. Come then and offer yourself to potential transformation by the creative process that flows through you and all life.
We light our chalice this morning with these words from Maureen Killoran. For every time we make a mistake and we decided to start again, we light this chalice. For every time we are lonely and we let someone be our friend, we light this chalice. For every time we are disappointed and we choose to hope, we light this chalice. As in our tradition, we also light a candle in solidarity with those families separated at our southern border. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join in singing our opening hymn, hymn number 359, in the great hymnal, When We Have Gathered. One of the ways that we proclaim the warmth and the caring of our community is by sharing our joys, concerns, and milestones. If you are joining us virtually, we invite you to type your joy, concern, or milestone in the YouTube chat box during the Music for Meditation. We invite those in person to, one at a time, drop a pebble into our communal bowl during the Music for Meditation. Spoken joys and concerns will be invited following the music. I invite you, if you have a joy, concern, or milestone, to come forward one at a time and briefly share it into the microphone. To help maintain social distancing, please do not line up, but come forward after the last person has left the microphone.
Richard sends his regrets. He has a cold. He's getting better, but he did not want to share it with any of you.
First Thanksgiving with my new son-in-law, and he's lovely. And it's always exciting for me when I meet somebody online and then I'm going to meet them in person. So one of my poet friends that I met online is coming today, and I'm excited to meet him.
I got to spend Thanksgiving up in Huntsville, where I saw some extended family that I haven't seen in about 20 years.
Thank you to all who shared their joys, concerns, and milestones this morning. May all the joys, concerns, and milestones of this community, those shared aloud and those held in silence, be received into the care and concern of all present. Many years ago, thousands of years ago, people in the Northern Hemisphere were thought to have gathered wreaths of evergreen and lit fires as signs of hope in the coming spring and renewed light. The custom was kept alive by Christians, and by the 16th century, the Advent wreath had gradually spread across many parts of the world. Today, Advent is the period of 4 Sundays leading up to Christmas. It's also the time when days are shortest, when cold settles in, and when people need the cheer brought by the promise of light and warmth. As we light one more candle each Sunday, this Advent wreath symbolizes our waiting experiences. Week by week, the candles remind us that the darkness of fear and hopelessness recedes as more and more light is shed in this world. The flame of each new candle reminds us that more is yet to come. On this first Sunday in Advent, we light this candle of hope with the words from Macarena Vidal-Kela, a Benedictine monastery.
I was just thinking one morning during prayer how much alike hope and baking powder are. Quietly getting what is best in me to rise, awakening, the hint of eternity within. May this candle awaken the best in us. Connect us to the eternal and give life to our hope.
Our moment for all ages today is led by our coordinator of religious exploration, Angela Farman.
Anybody who would like to come up and hear about the names Project 8 Memorial Quilt today. Come on up. This was going to be a little more interactive, but the website isn't working this morning. So, fortunately, we have some stills. And speaking of quilts, we have a quilt being raffled, I understand. A beautiful quilt being raffled that is going to help Habitat for Humanity. And you can get raffle tickets from Susan. So, a long time ago, back in the 80s, so long ago, there was another viral pandemic, just like what we're going through right now. Not exactly like we're going through right now, but it was a virus. It was a mystery virus. How did you know that?
Because I read the words up there.
Oh, well, yeah. You're a great reader and you're super smart and you snuck that one right past me. You're right, you are very sneaky. So, up to 1985, a little over 13,000 people died from this mystery virus just in the United States. Globally, it was much more. And in 1986 alone, over 16,000 people died in the United States, but we couldn't figure it out. I know, that's why it was a mystery. Oh my God. But in 1985, there was a man who was very interested in finding out what was going on and stopping it from hurting all these people. And his name was Cleve Jones. And he had people write their names of the loved ones they had lost to this mystery virus that was now being called HIV, which led to a disease called AIDS. And people wrote names and they put it on the old San Francisco Federal Building. You see this over here? And he looked at it and he went, huh, that looks like that could be a quilt. And so over the next few years, he and a few of his activist friends got together and came up with this beautiful idea to make a giant quilt with all the names of people who were loved but couldn't be commemorated. Because a lot of people who died of HIV, which led to AIDS, they didn't have funerals. And so this was a way of commemorating and celebrating their lives. And the first showing of the quilt took place on October 11th, 1987, on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. Is that huge? How big does that look really big to you? Okay, so just so you know how big it is, each one of those squares is 3 feet by 6 feet. Yeah, imagine, that's somebody's...
It at least has to be a mile altogether.
You think? Okay, let's look. Wow, it's really big, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's really big. And guess what? That was the beginning. That was the first time that it was shown. It's gotten even bigger since. Because unfortunately, people still die of this virus.
It looks like a flat building.
Do you know what that is? That is Washington, D.C.
It looks like a flat building. When I was young, guess what?
What happened?
I lived.
Did you live in Washington, D.C.?
No.
No, okay. I thought maybe that's where that was going.
I lived in Texas.
Oh, in Texas. Okay. Well, this is the interactive site that I was going to show you. So if any of you are interested in having a look at this, a little bit later on, if you go to the National AIDS Memorial webpage and click on quilts, there is under that an interactive tool that you can use where you can look up, specific people or specific community groups or specific places, and it'll light up for you and show you where all the instances of that name are. Okay, so by September 15th, 1987, there were 1,920 panels. Now, it is a 54-ton quilt with nearly 50,000 names. Fiona's getting a little applause here.
50,000.
And this is what one looks like. I just pulled one up at random. What do you think we can tell about this guy? Let's see. It says,
Brother's dead.
in memory of my brother, Richard Chacon, 1947 to 1987, Brooklyn, New York. He probably liked playing the guitar, and he probably liked the sun and the moon and the stars, or he was the sun and the moon and the stars to his brother or his sister, his sibling.
Last time I just saw it's a parade in New York.
The Macy's parade?
Thanksgiving parade.
Yeah. And then here's one that was put on later. This is Rudolph Ramirez Jr., and it has his birth date and his death date. And I think this was a theater person because there's all kinds, there's playbills and there's masks and stuff. And this is what it looks like when you have 8 panels put together. It becomes a 12 by 12 square. And so those all get sewn together, like you were saying, that somebody's job is to sew them together. And I pulled up one for somebody that I think at least the grown-ups know. This was a musician that you've probably heard his songs, you just don't know it. And so there were a number of them. I just thought that this one was good to pull up. And so Freddie Mercury was a singer from a band called Queen. You know who that is, right? Yeah. And Any Way the Wind Blows is lyrics from one of his songs. And this is the whole panel where you can find that one. There were, I think, 36 that were dedicated to Freddie Mercury. That's what it's like when you pull it out a little bit farther. Oh my goodness, when you pull it out even farther. And that's what the whole thing looks like right now.
It looks glitchy. It does.
Do you see where all those little red ribbons are?
Yeah.
Those are all the instances of Freddie Mercury. So that's how it indicates to you where you should go on the map to look for the name that you've put in. It puts a red ribbon on it. So, where is this quilt now? Was that going to be your question?
I was trying to read all the red ribbons.
Oh, well, I brought my computer so we can go look at all of them. I brought it because in case we couldn't do it here, we can do it in the RE building, okay? Well, now, in November 2019, the House and the Historical Society decided that the quilt would go back to San Francisco, and it would be in the permanent care of the National AIDS Memorial starting in 2020. It took them a little bit longer. I don't know if you know, but there was a bit of a thing that happened globally that made these things a little bit more difficult to put into place. But now, since last year, it's been in an outdoor display system constructed in Golden Gate Park, and I also have a walking tour of that if you want to look at it. So, some of our most important principles are to respect the importance and value of each person, to offer fair and kind treatment to everyone, and insist on justice, freedom, and peace for all. And that is why it is very important to us that on December 1st, which is just a few days away, it is Remembrance Day. So it's World AIDS Day, and the red ribbon, have you ever seen people wear the red ribbon? That's what that is in commemoration of. Do you want to go look at some more names and go take a little tour of this beautiful park? Oh, it is such a beautiful park. And I heard someone say that the park is the heart of San Francisco, and then the circle of friends is the heart of the park. So if you get a chance to get to your Google at some point after the service, I invite you to go have a little walking tour of it too. There's plenty on YouTube. Go outside.
Ignore
As you go your way in peace, as you go your way
Please join me in the spirit of contemplation in whatever way feels right with these words by Mark Stringer. As the year winds down to its close and we are submerged once again in the seasonal darkness we have come to know so well, we have reason to think back upon the year that was, if only because it will soon be gone. We think back to the friends we have made, the sorrow we have endured, the love we have found, the loneliness we have survived. We think back to the blessings of being forgiven and the gift we offered to ourselves when we forgave. We think back to those who have listened to us in our times of need and the times we have listened more. We think back to the things we traded for our time and to what we may have overlooked in the process. We think back to the times when we were afraid and uncertain and we trudged ahead anyway. And the times when we were compassionate when we could have been cold. In this season of still growing night, may we see more clearly against the dark backdrop of our living, the true light of our lives, the love we give to others, and the peace we nurture in ourselves. Blessed be.
The light of our chalice will soon flicker and die without the oil that nourishes its flame. And just as this flame cannot burn without oil, this religious community cannot survive or thrive without the financial as well as personal support of its members and friends. The oil that keeps the flame of a liberal religious faith alive and fuels the shared mission and the ministry of this fellowship. Let us now give freely and generously an offering to sustain and strengthen our shared religious community, a community of memory, hope, faith, and love. For we are now the keepers of its flame that burns for justice, its dream of beloved community, its vision of a world made whole. To make a donation online via PayPal, please visit auef.org/donate. Please indicate in the notes whether your donation is for your pledge or the offering. If you're writing a check, please make your check payable to AUF with a note on the memo line about whether it is for the offering or your pledge and drop it in the offering bowl or mail it to P.O. Box 669, Auburn, Alabama 36831. The offering will now be greatly received.
For some this is a season of hope.
For some this is a season of faith.
For others it's a season so full of dreams and wishes. it guide you in all that you do. And in this season, there's a wonderful reason to share ourselves in all that we are. Always believe, and believe the love that's deep in your heart. Believe the love that's deep in your heart.
A reading adapted from Marcia L. Wagner. People who have been hurt or humiliated often hope for an apology. They may hope that an apology from the person who caused them harm will restore dignity, trust, and a sense of justice. Whether you are requesting an apology or considering giving one, it is important to realize that a thoughtful apology can mend a relationship, while a thoughtless one may cause further conflict. An apology can often be the first step to better understanding in a damaged relationship. It says that you share values regarding appropriate behavior towards each other, that you have regrets when you don't behave according to those values, intentionally or unintentionally, and that you will make greater efforts to live up to your shared standards of behavior. Timing can be crucial. An apology delayed may be an opportunity lost. If an apology does not feel sincere, it can further damage the relationship. Sincerity is expressed by what you say, how you say it, and what body languages you use. You may be caught in some of the roadblocks listed below. If you cannot include all the elements of an effective apology, it may be best not to apologize. An inadequate or insincere apology can feel dismissive to the offender party, and it may heighten conflict.
I want to start by giving credit where credit is due. This is the auction sermon, and someone bid at the service auction last year and won this sermon. In case you want to, you can come on Friday and buy it for next year. And there are some great themes that come out of these sermons, themes that weren't even on my horizon at the time. But this year's sermon was suggested by Sylvia. If you like the sermon, please thank her for suggesting it. If you don't like it, please don't go complain to her, complain to me. My earliest memories of what apology are consisted of demanded apologies. When I was young, I remember having my father say, demand that I apologize for things that he felt were slight. Some of them he was probably right, I was probably in the wrong, and so young I didn't know it. And other times, I still think to this day, it was more about his ego than it was about actually getting an apology. But what these early formational approaches to apology taught me was that apology was about getting the other person to stop being mad at you. I assume by that nervous laughter, some of you know what I'm talking about. The thing about apology is that it can be a very restoring process, but it can also be one that furthers conflict. A number of years ago, a popular website that I visited found themselves in the midst of a scandal. Former creators on their site had created a 40-page document detailing allegations against members of the company, ranging from the petty to the downright disturbing. The result was everyone except for 2 people who were on this website left it, but not before the company tried to do damage control. And I raise it because of how they did the apology. After a really, really long and defensive document in which they tried to justify every single thing that was in there, they said, "We sincerely apologize you felt that way." It's not quite the worst apology I've ever had, but it definitely ranks in the top 10. And then they acted surprised when all hell broke loose. Yes, as our reading suggested this morning, when you're not sincerely sorry, it can be better to say nothing at all than to offer an insincere apology. Now, I felt I couldn't do justice to this topic unless I examined the why of why should we apologize. And it's interesting because there's a lot in the world religions about forgiveness. And forgiveness is definitely tied to apology, but it's not exactly apology. But there's relatively little about apologies. It's almost like people in the ancient world took it for granted, so much so they didn't feel like they needed to codify it. One good example, though, that you might be familiar with is the Jewish holiday of Yom Kippur. Now, Yom Kippur is one of the most important Jewish holidays. It's a day of atonement. It's a day on which people atone for their sins. And yes, quite often these are thought of as sins against God. But the other aspect of Yom Kippur is the belief that we can sin against each other in myriad ways. And on Yom Kippur, the idea is that we come back into relationship with people whom we have gone out with. The Jews believe that because humans have been given free will, they are responsible for their own actions. And if they commit an action which is wrong, they must seek forgiveness. An apology becomes a way of initiating the forgiveness process. Ultimately, this can lead to reconciliation, but it need not. Indeed, there are things you can do that even if you're sorry for them, you'll never reconcile. As imperfect as humans are, we will inevitably hurt the people we care about the most. Please raise your hand if you've never been hurt by someone you care about. No hands raised. If someone did, I would have asked them to see me after the service. And chances are you've hurt someone you care about as well. There is an innate human need to be in relationship. We are not made to be individuals cut off from one another. We need each other. And when we hurt one another, we need a way to come back into relationship. The Canadian historian Margaret Macmillan once said that an apology offered and equally important received is a step towards reconciliation and sometimes recompense. Without the process, hurts can rankle and fester and erupt into their own hatreds and wrongdoings. That's not to excuse when we do something bad, but indeed the hurt that we experience can sometimes make us more capable of hurting each other. But on the other hand, the ability to apologize and forgive offers an opportunity to release and an opportunity to repair. We apologize not because we have to. We don't go back to that model where we apologize just because the big scary adult's mad at us. We apologize because we so care about the person that we don't want to be separate from them. There are reasons not to apologize as well. If we sincerely believe we did nothing wrong, it can be better not to apologize than to say, I'm sorry you felt that way. And it's a caveat. Sometimes it's helpful to talk with a dispassionate observer, like a therapist or other helping professional, to make sure it's not just egoism or defensiveness. If the person you need to apologize to is abusive, it might not be the best time to apologize as well. After all, an abusive person can take your apology and turn it into further abuse. If you need to apologize to someone who's been abusive, it can be helpful to have another person in the room. And if your apology is contingent upon the other person doing something, if I go up and say, Laura, I'm sorry, but only if you're sorry too, that wouldn't feel like much of an apology. If you feel there is something the other person needs to do, you might need to work that out with them before you're ready to apologize, because that can lead to further resentment down the road. In the reading this morning, Marcia O. Wagner talked about some of the reasons to apologize and the possible barriers to them. But she also offers 7 steps to a good apology. I'll quickly go through the first 6, but we're going to focus the most on number 7. She thinks we need a specific definition of what the perceived offense was, and we need to acknowledge that the perceived offense caused harm. We need to take responsibility, saying, Terry, no, it was your fault. Don't sit in the front seat. And we need a recognition that we did wrong and a statement of regret. But most of all, we need a promise not to repeat it. If you're going in with the attitude that you're just going for the apology and you don't make a sincere effort to not repeat your behavior, are you truly sorry? Now she offers a 7th point, the most controversial of the 7, and I suspect it's why Sylvia picked this topic. She suggests that we might offer an explanation of why the offender acted this way. Now, the reason I want to focus on this above the other 6 is I suspect that we could talk about those other 6, but this 7th is where most people get hung up. The reason is because an explanation can be risky. If the other person's not in a place where they're ready to hear why you acted in such a way, it can sound like you are trying to justify the behavior that you did towards them. It can sometimes be useful for healing a broken relationship to hear that the other person wasn't just being malevolent to you. And it may set the groundwork for reestablishing trust and respect. But it's only effective if it's combined with the above elements. Benjamin Franklin thought so little of this 7th step that he said, never ruin an apology with an excuse. Indeed, how often have you heard someone say, I'm sorry, but I was only thinking of what's best for you? I have. I'm sorry I bullied you, but I was only thinking of what's best for you and trying to make you stronger. I'm sorry that I embarrassed you, but I was only trying to prop you up. I'm sorry, but maybe sometimes we shouldn't let our butts show. An overly defensive explanation can make the apology worse than none at all and actually further damage the relationship. The unnamed company that I cited found this out all too much. They're a shell of their former self at this point, though they do still exist. The other reason why this sort of element can be dangerous is because it can make a person feel like you're gaslighting them. If you're not familiar with the idea of gaslighting, there was a movie back in the 50s in which an abusive husband convinces a woman that she's losing her mind despite the fact that he's doing everything she's experiencing, by telling her that it's all in her head. And an explanation can be like that too, can't it? You're just being, we see it all the time in political discourse, you're just being a sensitive snowflake. Not only does that feel insulting, even from a stranger, but it feels like you're trying to make the other person take responsibility for what you did. And it's true that we're all responsible for our actions. But I feel like a person who truly cares about relationship should be willing, should be excited to make sure that they're not coming off as a great big jerk to people that they care about. Don't use the apology to make others take responsibility for how you feel. Now, the thing about apology is the other person doesn't have to accept your apology either. They might not be ready to accept it for various reasons, including continuing to feel hurt. Accept the boundaries that they set after the apology. If they're not ready to talk to you, don't push it. Immediate forgiveness as a benchmark for whether an apology is successful or not can be quite abusive. And it can make the person feel that your apology was conditional and insincere. And don't expect immediate reconciliation. Repair, if it is to be there, takes time. I had a friend once who pushed his boundaries too far, and it took years to get back to the point we were. Not because either of us had changed, but because we both needed time to learn to trust one another again and to be able to know that we could count on each other. Even if the person is ready to reconcile, the relationship may never be the same. Dialogue with the other person and be prepared to walk a long road. Because reconciliation isn't a one-time act. It's a lifelong one. Your apology is not usually the right time either to ask for an apology from them, even if you feel like they owe you one. If you feel like that needs to be a condition, perhaps you both need to talk with a dispassionate person before the apology. Just because you're feeling hurt doesn't mean the person did anything wrong either. Be ready to apologize because you care about the relationship, not because you want a particular outcome. Be prepared to sincerely change. As American theologian Tryon Edwards once said, right actions in the future are the best apologies for bad actions in the past. But here is what I know about apology. Beyond the how-to, beyond the caveats, beyond the warnings, apology can be one of the most beautiful things to come out of human relationship. If we were truly each individuals who didn't need one another, there would be no reason to apologize. But apologies are reminders that we're interdependent, that no person is an island, that we need one another. Novelist Leon Uris once said that the ability of a person to atone has always been the most remarkable of human features, and truly, it is. The idea that we can be sorry for our actions, and in the end, that sorrow can make us better people. When I got older, and I realized that apology wasn't just about making people not being mad at me, I realized that it could be a beautiful thing when it was sincere. That's why I don't think any child should ever be forced to offer an apology that isn't sincere. Because apology can be a tool towards reminding us just how beautiful the web of relationships are. And a forced apology can make us feel as if we're at the whim of everyone else. Making an apology a habit can help humble us in the face of our own foibles. And it can remind us that sometimes we need to forgive ourselves as well. When I hurt other people, sometimes the hardest thing to accept is the forgiveness towards myself. Maybe that's the reminder. Maybe that's the grace that apology offers. The chance to look at ourselves for all of our flaws, for everything we'd rather not be there, and say, I will do better tomorrow. We can turn our flaws into ways of becoming better people. May we be the people willing to apologize and accept apologies. And may we realize that our flaws, our cracks, can be beautiful if we're willing to look at them in the right way. May it be so. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit for our closing hymn, hymn number 205 in the gray hymnal, Amazing Grace.
Now you want to be sure that you have the waltz version. That's 205. This is in 3/4. Who knew that Amazing Grace was a waltz? And it isn't always a waltz. 206, you'll notice, for those who want to do further research, is in 4. But we're doing the 3/4 version.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. Was grace that taught my heart to feel, and grace my fears relieved. His gracious deed, that grace appeared, me out of my first belief. Though many dangers, toils, and snares I have already known, 'tis grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. When we've been dead 10,000 years, we're shining as the sun. We've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun.
Please join me in extinguishing our chalice. You will find the words in your order of service.
Extinguish this flame,
but
not the light of truth, the warmth of humanity, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we return again.
Please be our guest today after the service for a coffee hour here in the sanctuary. This is an opportunity to chat with the people about the service or just how their week went. If you are not signed up for our email list, please make sure to do so to receive updates about the ways to connect. You can find information on signing up on our website, auf.org/subscribe. I invite anyone with a spoken announcement to come forward at this time.
I am your auction, this on?
It's on.
I'm your auction bazaar. And we collected some wine, pretty good bit of wine, pretty good, but we are really short on beer. And I need beer. Right now we have a 12-pack of Heineken. And that's not going to last forever. We need that. We'll probably need 2 more coolers filled with ice, I hope. And possibly some fruit drinks. Green tea is pretty good. But if anybody can help, I'll put out an email on this today, too. Thanks.
I'm Susan. Angela mentioned that I have tickets for the quilt for Habitat for Humanity. I am not going to be able to stay very long, so if you want to buy some, catch up with me right after the service or look at the listserv and text me with the number of tickets that you would like. I need to turn in the money on Tuesday. Thank you.
I have a printout from our Sign Up Genius for the auction volunteers. And we still have some jobs that are open. Most of the skilled positions, people like Terry for the auctioneers, are filled, but we have a lot of little jobs that just need bodies, people to help, carry things over. Like after the service today, we're going to carry things over for the auction from the Bush Center. So if anyone can step up to help with that, that would be great. I'm going to leave the list over here during coffee hour. You can please look at this list and see if there's something that you can help to do.
Jim, why don't you mention a couple more spots that we need help with?
Well, just setting things up for the auction, putting stuff on the tables, moving chairs around, other kinds of things that are just relatively simple things.
I'm happy to help with that.
I am still looking for more offerings of food for the auction. Sweet and or savory would be really good. I've heard from quite a few people. I still need to hear from a lot more. Or just bring them in Friday at 5 p.m. Beginning at 5 to 6. We'll be accepting food at the kitchen door. And my name is Jan Newton, if you need to get in touch with me. And let's get that yummy food in so we can feed all the volunteers and all the hungry bidders. Thank you.
More auction stuff. Not volunteers, not food, not beer, although beer is necessary. But the vibe. I want to remind you how much fun the auction is. Those of us who are planning it have at this point depleted mental capacity because it's eaten away our brains, for the last month. But that's our problem. You should just come and have fun and bring a friend. It costs nothing to get in. They don't have to bid if they don't want to. Of course, they can get carried away and bid. And there's food and drink. More bidders, a merrier auction shall it be. I wanted to mention this. We're trying something new. We have an abundance of items to offer. And, sometimes, if you're Taylor Swift, you can crash the Ticketmaster thing. We have enough items that we're worried that we're going to crash the money table with them keeping up with these thousands of things. So we have a new idea that we're trying this year, I think, for the first time. Which is grab it and pay for it. So some things will be first come, first serve on the silent auction side, not everything. But we're putting aside some stuff saying, okay, if you see it and you like it, go pay for it, it's yours. So what that means, the strategy that you need, if you want to get in on that, is get here at 6 o'clock, because it's first come, first serve. On that small subset of items, we're trying this out to see how it goes.
So you're saying those items have prices marked on them?
Those items,
yes.
Yeah, we won't take bids, they'll just have a price. Okay. It'll be a suggested donation.
You can always
pay more.
Yeah. Anyway, so come, have fun. Auction happens once a year. I know it's going to be great because you're going to show up. Thanks.
I just want to add to that is, I don't know how many years ago it's been, but it was in the late 90s, and Terry invited me to the auction. I'd never been to the auction, and I came. And at the auction, I'd already known Peter, and Peter invited me to come to services. So sometimes you even get new members by inviting somebody to the auction.
Just one quick announcement. The stuff that's sitting on the table over there where the coffee is, those are freebies. You don't have to pay anything for those. If you want to make a donation, we'll take money, of course.
Stuff on top.
Yeah, the stuff on top. I work at a pharmacy. We can't have stuff in there that's past the expiration date to sell, so ta-da, donations.
I do not have auction news. You may have noticed the Advent candles are out again. Make sure to thank Laura Kloberg, because my understanding is this was mostly her doing this year, and they're some of the most beautiful Advent candles I've seen, so especially that Christmas candle. So make sure to thank her, but that means it's 3 weeks until Christmas Eve. I know, I just saw a few of you get really scared looks on your faces. But that means I'm going to be looking for volunteers for the Christmas Eve service, which is always fun, and sometimes I get so many volunteers that it's hard to fit you all in, but those are good years when I have to figure out how to fit you all in. So be watching for an email this week. Whatever your talent is, bring it, and we'll figure out how to fit you in.
Speaking of talent, this is a wonderful time of year for music. The one piece, the one that I'm in, I will be playing with the community orchestra. Our concert will be this Tuesday at Auburn First Baptist, but the community band is playing, the community chorus is singing. You'll be pleased to hear I'm not dancing in the Nutcracker. But it too is going on. We always say that December needs to be 2 months long, and it's a great time for music.
Following up on the music, Auburn High School also have quite a few musical events going on. This Thursday is a Tri-Am benefit Christmas concert. There are a lot of high school kids, young adult I should say, youth going to play, and that's all Auburn High School. The entry fee is your donation. You can bring some items there, and you can have an evening of the music with the young talent. And Wednesday, Auburn High School plays, Auburn High School football team plays with the Thompson from Birmingham at the Jordan Hare because they won the regional. I'm not a football person, so don't quote me on that, but they won the game with the Central. So now they are going to play in the Jordan Hare, including marching band. So Misha and Leah also, their Misha has a solo part in the marching band this year. So if you like football or want to see the marching band, it's such a privilege for marching band to be able to play in the Jordan Hare. So that's Wednesday night, 7 o'clock kickoff. And the last is not music related, but Dinah's Country. Amy Kaiser and I are truly grateful for all the item donations and the cash donation in the past year. And Sunday after Thanksgiving to the Christmas, we are collecting cash donations for the Ines Country Holiday Drive. So that will come, that would produce Christmas gift, the gift card for recipients so that they have little, things in their wallet to enjoy shopping for themselves. And then also determines how much cash the cash giving throughout the year until the next holiday drive. So you can place them in the offering bowl as long as you can say this is for Ines Country Holiday Drive, or you can mail in or do the PayPal. Thank you in advance for your contribution. Please join us now for our Sang benediction.
The peace is a revolutionary act. It means to trust that the outsider we fear, to wish well those who have hurt us, and to forgive at last ourselves. To offer the blessing to those around you is to love your neighbor and yourself, and to be at peace with the universe. Pax vobiscum, peace, peace. Amen. Blessed be, and go in peace.